Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. Worms were crawling across his face and his body was half decomposed. She gripped my hand and my hand instantly became numb. I could see the spirit vividly. Mark Spencer went through this while residing at the eerie Miller house. But who was Sarah, and how did the haunting of her home occur? Is this haunted mansion connected to some paranormal purpose? Is Sarah's soul still lingering there? This terrifying tale has all the answers you're looking for. It wasn't a haunted house right away. Constructed in 1870, the home was purchased by Mark Spencer and his spouse, Linda Spencer, in December 1993. They had just gotten married and had moved into the house without being aware of its paranormal past. They even carefully chose and arranged a room for their future child. They had saved up their hard-earned money to buy their first house, but their dog would frequently act abnormally in the room they had chosen for their infant. They disregarded the dog's conduct, assuming it was just getting used to its new surroundings. They had no idea that the dog was trying to alert them to impending danger. After a year, they began to notice unusual things happening to them, such as lights turning on by themselves, things falling, glass breaking, strange noises during the night, and chilly patches in different parts of the house. Mark and Linda became aware of the ghostly presence in their home. However, they chose to live with the ghost because they were unable to afford to relocate. Besides, they didn't believe in ghosts and hadn't really seen any. After giving birth, they settled their newborn into the room where the dog had once barked. A few things happened that disturbed Linda more and more, especially their baby's inability to sleep at night. Linda frequently believed that the infant was kept awake beyond 2 a.m. by an unseen force playing with them. However, this was only the beginning. Soon they would encounter even scarier situations. Even though their infant was too small to pick up the toys, Mark discovered them all strewn all over the floor when he one day went into the baby's nursery. Mark put the toys back where he assumed Linda had placed them for the baby. The sound of toys being flung around resumed as he descended the stairs. Mark checked again and found the toys strewn all over the floor. Mark and Linda agreed not to leave their infant alone in that room at night after discussing what had happened. In order to help with the baby's care, they summoned Mark's brother and Linda's sister, and they started keeping the infant with them at night. Their neighbor reported a week later that the baby's room light came on after 2 a.m. Mark and Linda were taken aback because that room had been shut from the outside, and they had never turned on the light at night. Mark made the decision to move out of the house after that, even if it meant being homeless. It was the appropriate course of action. Mark felt a twinge of agony in his back as soon as he made up his decision. Linda noticed claw marks on Mark's back as she removed his shirt, giving the impression that he had been severely scratched. When the family realized this, they instantly left the residence. They invited Margaret Campbell, a paranormal investigator, to their house on July 29, 1994. Mark wasn't prepared to give up the house because he was afraid of ghosts, having saved every penny to purchase it. Margaret told Mark that the house was haunted by the spirit of a small child named Sarah. Mark conducted additional research and found that, in fact, a girl by the name of Sarah had lived there in the past and had passed away there. It was said that because she loved the house, her soul stayed. Mark and Linda felt they could live with the ghost since they hadn't seen anything really terrifying yet. However, this choice would turn out to be a grave error. A man who had resided in the residence for 5 years prior to Mark paid him a visit a month later. He explained to Mark that when they had lived there, his daughter had acquired an imaginary friend and they had also encountered unusual happenings that had prompted them to move out. The little girl in the white gown, the man's imaginary buddy, was shown in a drawing made by the man's daughter. Despite the man's warnings, Mark refused to leave the house and retained the picture. Mark walked to the kitchen at 3 a.m. after feeling thirsty that same night. He saw Sarah behind him as he was making his way back. Mark could see through her to the wall because she was semi-transparent. But Mark just went back to sleep because Sarah hadn't heard him. He told Linda about the incident the following morning. After then, everyone in the home started to see Sarah frequently, but nobody was afraid of her. But Sarah found that offensive. She was dismissed even though she was a ghost. However, Sarah revealed her true strength around 6 weeks later. Mark was asleep one night when he opened his eyes to find Sarah standing in front of him. Once more, he disregarded her, but this time, Sarah caught his leg and drew him in her direction. Sarah had grown quite strong. The whole space felt icy. Mark felt numbness everywhere Sarah touched him. She was pulling really hard at him. Mark said that worms were crawling over her partially rotting face. Her appearance gave off a disturbing mix of animal and human features. Mark left the house somehow, making his getaway. Following that day, Mark and his family permanently moved out of the house and began to believe in ghosts. Even now, no one is brave enough to dwell in the abandoned house. Although no one has resided in the house since the Spencer family, paranormal investigators have visited it frequently and claimed to sense a presence. The weird happenings in the house could have a number of causes. To start with, the house was quite old, and old buildings frequently produce bad energy. Old wiring could be the cause of flickering lights rather than ghosts. Mark Spencer's family's paranormal experiences might have been impacted by the ghost stories that were already circulated about the property and the notion that a death had taken place there. In addition, old buildings frequently make weird noises, give off a bad vibe, and can affect occupants' physical and mental health. Remarkably, Mark didn't start noticing Sarah wearing a white dress until the man showed him the photo. Mark had never seen Sarah before he saw that photo. Thus, it's plausible that other factors, in addition to paranormal activity, had a role in what occurred to Mark's family. This does not, however, negate the fact that all paranormal investigators who have been to the house concur that it is demonic and that a ghost still inhabits it. The haunting house tale comes to an end here. Do you think that Sarah's home is indeed demonic? Or did Mark Spencer and his family suffer for other reasons?